Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had a lot of proof that you know some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty, and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African, LeVar Burton had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
That was the dramatization. How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest...
exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can watch Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Happy Educational Friday. How y'all doing? Please like the video if you haven't already. Sorry, I'm late. Welcome to the party. I'm late. As you can see, I just unfolded this shirt out the pack, so we're gonna be wrinkled on Friday today. I don't care. I just want to get on here. Now, you guys, first of all, shout out to everybody who pulled up. Shout out to everybody who comes on Educational Friday. It just, it really warms my heart. Y'all know this is my favorite segment to do. So, we're here. Now, this week, we're going to discuss the Civil War. Why did the Civil War happen? What did so-called African Americans or Black Americans, or at the time, Indian or Indigenous people, what their role was in the Civil War, okay? And then all these other things that are connected with it. Now, I've told you guys before that wars are fought at one point, especially during biblical time, it was fought over women and things of that nature. But in the recent years, in the recent hundreds of years, it's been typically fought about religion, money, things of that nature. And the Civil War was one of those things that were fought because of money, capital. That's what this was all about. We've been told in high school and middle school, and whenever we learned about Abraham Lincoln, that it was fought because Lincoln wanted to free the slaves. That is a lie. Actually, Lincoln didn't give a you know what about the slaves. Actually, Lincoln, if he could have did the whole thing without freeing the slaves, we would have still been slaves. Okay. It has been alleged that Abraham Lincoln was a copper colored man, or at least a swarthy, darker skinned man. I believe it. I believe that a lot of the key players that we were taught about and gave pictures of or depictions of that are clear, I believe that a lot of those people were black. It has been proven by some people that these people were black. But ultimately, when you've been conditioned to see a photo of something, it's hard to take that out of your head. You see what I'm saying? So Christopher Columbus, they say he was a clear man. I've seen evidence to say that he was not a clear man. He was actually a Negropean. I've seen other people, Shakespeare, all these people, Queen Elizabeth, all these people who they're portraying as clear. It's all a part of the mental enslavement. The mental enslavement is to have you inferior or have an inferior complex to clear people, because they're basically writing themselves in these stories. Okay. That's literally what they're doing. They're writing themselves in these stories for mental enslavement. Okay. That's what this is all about. Now, I'm not saying there weren't any clears. There obviously were clears. But what I'm saying is a large majority of the people that we were taught about are melanated people. But this is why it is extremely important. This is why it is extremely important that we understand who we are so that we can spot the fakes. We talked about it this morning on the Morning Joes. I need people who they are so that we can figure out if we moving together, we getting along together or what. But all of everybody now, when you Google everybody in America that's black, they say everybody African American. Everybody. They'll either say African American or they'll say Black American. But the gag is that's not true. But that's what history does. That's what these people do. They need to confuse you, because now that we've caught on to the fact that there's a lot of people out here that's playing like they acorn, and then we go and do the research and realizing they not acorn. Now Google is actively every day updating its database to tell you everybody you run across is a Black American. And that's the furthest thing for the truth. Let me show you. I've shown this before in the past, but we're going to show it again. I want to show you proof of whitewashing. Proof of whitewashing. Now, Batista came over here. And this is the photo. Okay, let me back up. Batista was an author, a writer. And basically what he was a spy. He'd come over to the Americas, and typically North America for this one. And he'd write down what he saw and what he witnessed. Just the same way they spy on us today. They just don't do it the way they did it back then, right? So in his trips to America, he saw people, and this is the depiction he had his artist draw, because this is what Batista saw when he came down to America, North America. Okay, he described this photo. We're gonna get into him one day too. He described this photo. These are the swarthy people that he spoke of. This is a woman commanding an army, that divine feminine. Remember, all these men around this woman is very strong and very masculine and very in tune to who they are. But ultimately, this is a woman commanding an army of men. This is that divine feminine. Remember, when they gave us religion, they told us that it was God, Jesus, and then the husband. That's how we got off our rocker. Okay? But this is the picture that this man showed. And guess what the clear people did? Let me show you what the clear people turned around and did. They turned around and took this man's whole depiction and did this. Now, why is this important? Yup, just like chess. Riri. Listen, why is this important? First of all, they need us to think that the Native Americans are indigenous to this land. Let's start there first. So they need to change the depiction of these people so that it matches what we see now. Okay. So they took the prior photo that was of darker copper color skin people. And then they updated this photo. And this is the photo you find on Google. You got to go to the man. You got to literally trick the algorithm and go into the book. Okay. To figure out who these people really look like. Somebody put the emblem of America. I think I have that on here. This is the color version. Okay? These are the earliest depiction of what them people said we looked like when they came over here. These are very early depictions. All these photos that I'm showing you are early depictions of who these people saw when they encountered this land, okay? I'll show you another one. You see that? These are the people that these people say they encountered when they came over here. Rather, they came for trade. Rather, these are our ancestors. I don't care what no Native American or $5 footlong tell you. These are the people. These are us. This is us. You see it? You see these pilgrim people? And you see these men in this doggone, and this man in this robe here? It wouldn't surprise me if this is one of them Catholics from Europe. Are you tracking? Remember, these three people don't look like this man in the middle. Think about it. The three people around him do not look like the man in the middle. And I'm going to have to go into research on this photo. But it looks to me like here's one of them pilgrims, the lady on the side with the dress. There's one of them Quaker people. And it gives me Black European over here, Negropean. Because this man got copper tone. These people have darker skin, but you can tell they ain't from the same place. And this is what's important about today and moving forward. We have to learn to read between the lines. They be telling you what's going on without telling you what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So this picture is very telling. There's a clear woman and there are obviously Black people in this photo. But those three Black people that you see in this photo, one of them is different from the other two. Why is that? You see what I'm saying? You got to start looking deeper into what we're looking at. Here's another one when it came down to the tobacco. Look at the man who's trading tobacco with them. That is a what? Black man. He introduced tobacco to these colonizers. We were already growing tobacco in America, corn, all those things go back ancients of years. We were already doing all of these things before these folk came around here. Okay? So I need y'all to be able to look between the lines. Now, they're going to whitewash it. If you Google it right now, I'm pretty sure they got them looking like a damn Native American. But these are the early depictions of the people that they came across when they come over here. And let me say this too. We've also been bamboozled to think the Indians, all the Indians got the long, pretty hair. These are nappy head so-called Negroes on these photos. Never forget that. Look, this ain't no man with no long, straight, lengthy hair. To be completely honest, their hair and their skin tone only changed when they started to cohabitate and co-create. Okay? Look at this man. That look like one of our uncles. I don't see no long, pretty, long hair. Listen, yes, woolly hair. It's not about the new Indian look. And that happened because a lot of people procreated. Hell, even on my daddy's side, my daddy said his great-grandmother used to give his great-grandfather crap because he was mixed with French and Indian. She called him a half-breed. My daddy said that about his great-grandfather. Cherokee. And around this time, they hadn't fully went into the 5 civilized tribes, which we'll get into as well. But a lot of that from my daddy's side of the family, the reason why they have the hair that they have, because of them French people and them Spanish people was over there co-creating with my daddy people. And they from Florida, from my daddy's side, the Indians. Them people come out of Florida. And my mama's side come out of Mississippi. So don't take this whole Indian, oh, you got good hair. No, the original Indian looked like me and you, nappy head. You feel what I'm saying? I need y'all to take that away from this, and I need y'all to understand this. Them long hair, pretty hair people, them people come way later down the line, okay? But I was saying that to say this. Once this picture, which once was, is now this picture. It's all a part of whitewashing. So as we read today about these doggone, the Civil War and the Buffalo Soldiers and the 5 civilized tribes and all of that stuff, let me tell y'all something. we're going to have to be able to pick and weed through the bull, okay? Because we're going to run across a lot of bull. They're going to be using things like African Americans. That wasn't even a term during the Civil War. So stop it. You see what I'm saying? That wasn't even a label for black people during the Civil War. But when you go to read these things, they're going to say African Americans. Or when we get to talking about the Indians, you know what they're going to call them? Native Americans, because they don't want you to find you in the story. They want you to find them $5 footlongs in the story. But we not doing that, okay? We going to read between the bull. So I hope y'all are ready for this Educational Friday. You guys, do me a favor, like the video if you haven't already. Shout out to everybody in the building. We about to get into it. And I used to say my family is from Louisiana and my other family from Texas. Girl, listen, I'm born and raised in New Orleans. My mama born and raised in New Orleans. I always knew my grandmother was from Mississippi because they always talked about the country and how they grew up and all of that. My mom always talked about going by her grandmother in the country and stuff. But really realizing I'm really only second generation to New Orleans. My roots don't come from New Orleans or Louisiana at best. My roots come from, on my mama's side, Mississippi, by way of what the landmass is now of Mexico. And my daddy's side come from Florida. Them. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of them, and I ain't even touched they genealogy yet. But I'm pretty sure on my daddy was military. His daddy was military. His daddy was military. I know we got some war fighting MFers on that side. You see what I'm saying? I can't wait to dive into his genealogy. Okay. So let's get into it. Now, I want to start off, you guys. Hold on. Let me go get something. Let me see where I want to start at. Oh, and I'm gonna share a video by Dane too. Dane Calloway. Shout out to Dane Calloway. We're gonna go over a video over that too. Let's start with the 5 civilized tribes, okay? Let's start with the civilized tribes. Let's start with the 5 civilized tribes. Then we're gonna go into the Buffalo Soldiers, and then from the Buffalo Soldiers, then we're gonna go into Indian interaction with the Civil War and things of that nature. Let me share my screen. Vu, are you still going to give us info on how to find our genealogy? Yeah, but I want to get somebody who's smarter than me on it, because you got to keep in mind, let me say this. I'm in a peculiar situation as it pertains to my genealogy because I have an actual graveyard, a grave site. My family has its own grave site. So I have the people that I'm matching to the records. Does that make sense? Like I can go point to my family. I can go sit on top of their grave and say, this my great grandmother, this my great aunt, this, you know what I'm saying? This my great great grandmother. So I'm only using documentation to match what I physically have. So I don't think that I'm the expert in that. But what I will do is try to find somebody who is an expert in genealogy, and we'll have them on here, and I'll even open the lines, but we'll have them on here, and somebody that's an expert. Again, let me tell y'all this. Voodoo Doll TV, do not recommend you giving your personal information to nobody. I don't care who it is. I don't care. I Voodoo Doll TV. Now do with it as you please. But Voodoo Doll TV, don't recommend you give your personal information about your lineage to nobody or your ancestry. But if you decide to, that's between you and that person. I just tell you, I don't recommend it. But what I can do is get somebody up here, maybe Topcats. I could get Topcats. I'll call him. I can get Topcats to see if he'll come over and explain the genealogy thing one Friday, and we'll go over that. But I'm in a more on my mother's side of the family, because I hadn't even started my daddy's. All I have is word of mouth and what folklore, if that's what you want to call it. But on my mama's side of the family, I have an actual grave site that goes back to the 1600s. You see what I'm saying? So I'm taking the people and matching them with the documentation. That's not normal. Most people have to go find the documentation first. You see what I'm saying? To figure out who's who, what goes where, and then so I don't think I'm an expert on that for now, okay? But I will get somebody, probably Top Cast or somebody. I'll see if Karimio, I forget his name, because he's excellent at it. And I don't know if he'll come over to my little small channel, but I'll sure ask him. But I'll see if he'll come over and talk about genealogy with us one Friday, okay? But I just don't want to act like I'm the expert in all of this, but I actually have a head start. So I don't want to do that to y'all, because I have a huge head start. A huge head start. But this the gag. Once y'all start doing your genealogy, you're going to realize that you have more of a head start than you know. Remember, Black Americans are the only people that have been documented for hundreds of years on Earth. Let me say that again. While they tell us we don't know where we come from, we the only one have documentation proof. And guess what? The documentation stopped? Slavery. I wonder why that is. I wonder why you could give me all these intricate details and all this intricate information all the way up to the slave trade. Now we were told millions of people were brought over here. Now it come out only 300,000 that came to North America. Stop it. I don't believe that shit I believe the intra-American slave trade happened. I believe them people was trafficking people from Americas to Americas, Brazil, Haiti, the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, all them Spanish speakers. I believe they were doing that, but nothing is proving this transatlantic slave trade. Okay? So, again, I'm gonna get somebody on here that's more versed in it than I am, and we'll go from there, okay? Panama, all of that. Because I feel like we got too much documentation on I'm talking about even before the slave trade and all of that. But somehow it get murky around the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. And I ain't found no boat yet, so all you showing me is old shackles that y'all probably created. I don't know nothing about that. But anyways, let's get into the 5 civilized tribes. I think that's what I'm on. Hold on. I think that's what I pulled up. All right. We have... Yes. Wait, what is this? Let me go up. Sorry, y'all. I forgot what... Okay, the Forgotten Warriors of the Civil War. Okay, so now we're going to go over Indigenous, our ancestry, and what they did in the Civil War, okay? Now, I'm going to read the objective, and we're going to skim through some of this. It says, the Forgotten Warriors of the Civil War is the story of the tragic effect that the American Civil War had upon tribes of the Indian Territory, modern-day Oklahoma. Remember, the Trail of Tears forced a lot of our people from our lands in the South and in the West and all other places to one small place. That's if you decided you were going to say you were in the 5 civilized tribes. More than any other particular group in the United States at that time, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, or the 5 civilized tribes, were divided between loyalty to the Union and secessionist Southern states, okay? This lesson will teach students about why this civil war within a civil war occurred, okay? Now, it says when the Civil War began in April of 1861, the federal forces were withdrawn from the Indian Territory. So they had federal forces that were over there policing Indian Territory, right? Seeing an opportunity to gain control of territory and establish military alliances, the Confederate government sent emissaries to sign treaties with the 5 civilized tribes, as well as other fragmentary people groups in the territory. Absent a federal presence, many tribes did so. However, the signing of these treaties led Amerindians, who were still loyal to the Union, to seek protection from the federal government. Remind you, around this time, prior to the Civil War, you got the federal government, which is the northern states, 13 colonies or whatever the case may be, and then you got the South. This is before it was the United States. They was them, we was us in the South, okay? Okay, so Pro-secessionist Native Americans, they mean Indians, who were still loyal to the Union to seek protection from the federal government. Okay, I'm sorry. Pro-secessionist Native Americans promptly began driving the pro-Northern groups out of the territory and into Kansas, creating a refugee crisis for officials in the newly created state. Now, you have to understand what's going on around this time. In the South, they didn't allow Black Americans or Indigenous Americans to literally fight shoulder to shoulder with the clears, right? So in order to gain any type of like manhood or really get your feet dirty, get your hands dirty, you had to go side with the Union. That was the North, okay? So the North was like, oh, come on up here. Plus they needed the manpower because they without the Black Americans, they would have lost, okay? So we have to be mindful of this as to why they're, and listen, the people who wanted to fight, the Black Americans who wanted to fight with the South, remember, the Civil War was about money. It wasn't about nothing other than money. Them people wanted to make sure their best interest was taken care of. You know what I mean? So, okay, let's get into it. It says, as Southern officers began organizing the Indians still in the territory for action in the war, Kansas officials and Union officers began to advocate for the organization of Native forces as well, principally from the refugee of the Indian Territory. Even though both sides attempted to use their native troops in Missouri and Arkansas, the main goal was to use the troops to secure control of the Indian Territory, what resulted in the Native Americans on both sides fighting against each other, their brethren on the other side, many times in brutal fashion. Now, let me tell you why this was easy to do. Number one, we were already tribal. So prior to this whole, these people coming over here, I had my tribe, you had your tribe, they had their tribe. Everybody did their own thing, but when it was time to go to war, we went to war. That's the divide and conquer thing they're able to use still to this day. So it was easy for them to just be like, okay, cool, bet. Y'all Indians, y'all go govern these Indians, and if you got to do whatever you got to do, make it happen. Okay? The Indian Territory became a wasteland from the wanton destruction with the result of starvation. With the result that starvation was rampant, homes and farms were destroyed, and few Indians remained on their soil. All of this was happening against a backdrop of betrayal by the government officials on both sides. See, pulling the strings. More tragedy awaited the Amerindians who fought on both sides when the war ended. Okay? Let me see. Procedure. Step 1, divide the class into 2 groups. This can be done by the student initiative teacher assign. Oh no, this is a let me go down. I saw something else. Okay, I think that's it over here. They're trying to do an exercise on here. But this is what I'm saying. There was a war happening within each other, within us, while there's a whole civil war happening as well, right? Ooh, that's a good question. We call BS News Podcast. That is actually a wonderful question. How come we ain't see no Native Americans in the movie Glory? Because they didn't exist and they didn't fight in every war. Let's talk about it. I know they're gonna show us pictures, and we're gonna get into it. They're gonna show us pictures of a Native American with a blicky. Take that and roll with it. They did not fight in the wars. We fought in wars. Every single one of us in this chat, every single one of us who watch this replay have somebody in their family who fought in one of them wars. Period, point blank. But the reason you don't see them in there because they did not fight in the war. Remember, the Native American population is extremely small, like minute. I don't know if a lot of people know that. See, remember the story they told us is the reason they so small. Remember they told us the reason they so small because they unalive most of them? That's a lie. They so small because they never really existed. But our people always existed, okay? Every single black person on this panel got somebody who fought in one of them wars. Period, point blank. I don't care who you is. I could put my hand over my eye and just warn in the sea of niggas and point my finger. If I don't care where I stop, somewhere down the line, one of your people fought in one of them wars. Period. Because remember, we're fighting for our own gain as well. But they've been lying to us, telling us, oh yeah, the reason they ain't got that many of them because we unalive most of them. You a goddamn lie. And it's documented that you alive, because it's documented that you was unaliving us, but we was coming back like roaches. It was too much. You feel what I'm saying? So, okay. Now, I want to go into the 5 civilized tribes. Let's go into the 5 civilized tribes, you guys, and how this all came about. Let me see, where is it? Here you go. All right, now this is according to OklahomaHistory.org. And we're going to get into the 5 civilized tribes. Remember, the 5 civilized tribes are made up of hundreds, if not maybe thousands, of smaller tribes. That's why when I do my research on my tribe, on my mother's side, the Suma tribe, they say they died off. No, they didn't, because I'm still here. No, they didn't. They paper genocided them off. They wrote them off. That's what they did. Just like they wrote off Negro, just like they wrote off Indian, they wrote them off. They never died because I'm still here. Okay? Now, again, this is according to the Encyclopedia of Oklahoma History and Culture. 5 civilized tribe. The term 5 civilized tribe came into use during the mid-19th century, that's the middle 1800s, to refer to the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole nations. Although these Indian tribes had various cultural, political, and economic connections before removal in the 1820s and 1830s, we talked about that? The phrase was most widely used in Indian Territory and Oklahoma. Remember, if your tribe decided that they were going to concede and come up under the law, they had to leave whatever tribal stuff they had behind and become one of these 5 civilized tribes, okay? Anything else, like they did before in the census, they called us wild Indians, okay? The term 5 civilized tribe came into use. Wait, did I read that? Okay, let me move down. Americans and sometimes American Indians called the 5 southeastern nations civilized because they appear to be assimilating to Anglo-American norms. That's literally just what I just said. If you were going to conform to the tribes, to America's, the clear people, the powers that be's way of living, you were now civilized. All the rest were wild Indians, okay? So when they say they assimilated to Anglo-American norms, that means they just basically, whatever the powers that be wanted them to do, they had to get all their cultural stuff off. Now put on a pair of pants instead of dressing like you was. You're not going to do the jobs you used to do. You're not going to do none of that. You're going to do what the people do. You see what I'm saying? Those were the civilized tribes. Okay, the term indicated adoption of horticulture and other European cultures, cultural patterns, and institutions, including widespread Christianity. Now, why is this important? Let me pause right there. I'm going to read it again. The term indicated adoption of horticulture and other European cultural patterns and institutions, including widespread Christianity. I've always asked this from a little bitty girl. What was we doing before them people gave us this church? I will give my left arm to figure that out. And I know I can speculate. A lot of people have speculated, but boy, if I could go back in the hands of time to see what my people was doing, bro, because what were we doing before they gave us that clear Jesus? What was we doing before they gave us that doggone church house? All docile and waiting on God for everything. And don't get me wrong, that church house has its goods and its bad, because it did instill some morals at some point. But at the end of the day, it was really like the beginning of our downfall. Remember, when they did the Tuskegee experiment, where did they go recruit these men? At the church. Y'all do remember that when we talked about the Tuskegee experiment. They met them men down at the church house. Everything they do goes through that goddamn building. Okay? written constitutions, centralized governments, intermarriage with the Americans, remember, survival of the fittest, market participation, literacy, that's that schoolhouse shit, animal husbandry. What the fuck is animal husbandry? I'm gonna come back to that. Patrilineal descent, patrilineal descent, what that is, we gotta look that up, and even slaveholding. None of these attributes characterize all of the nations or all of the citizens that they encompass. The term was also used to distinguish these 5 nations from other so-called, wild Indians who continue to rely on hunting for survival. They weren't called wild Indians because they hunted. They were called wild Indians because they didn't fold. Do you get it? Elements of civilization within southeastern Indian societies predated removal. The Cherokee, for example, established a written language in 1821. We need to get a hold of that. A national Supreme Court in 1822 and a written constitution in 1827. The other 4 nations had similar, if less noted, developments. Remember, too, you got to remember, now's around the time, if not right before, these is around the time these people is getting them $5 foot loans and putting them as the face of the tribes. Okay? This is where the $5 foot loans come in. But I need to see something. Let me see this. Animal husbandry. Somebody might know it, but I want to look it up. Hold on. What the fuck is that? Animal husbandry. I don't like the way it sounds. That mean like relying on animals? When I don't know a word, I'm playing stupid. I'm going to get it. Animal husbandry definition. I'm going to see it. Animal husbandry is the branch of agriculture concerned with animals that are raised for meat, fiber, milk, or other products. It includes day-to-day care, management, production, nutrition, selective breed. Okay, so our system of farming today, because you got to keep in mind, we lived off the land. What you caught is what you ate. So they saying like in a civilized manner, like, oh, get you a farm, get you some pigs, get you some, I see what they're saying. That's what they're doing. Now, it's one more thing I wanted to look up over here that stumped me a little bit. Patrilineal descent. I need to know what that means too. Patrilineal descent is a social organizational system predicated on the tracing of kinship through the male. Boom, there it is. Listen, these are things we have to take on. Farming, and look, patrilineal descent is a social organizational system predicated on the tracing of kinship through the male line. Now, why is this important? What were we doing before? If they had to teach us to do it through the man, you get it? We wasn't doing that. Doesn't that bring us back to this photo? Remember we were talking about that divine feminine, I'm sorry? Doesn't that bring us back? Let me go get it. To this photo? Because now they teaching us how to do everything through the male line when the fact of the matter is we never did that. It brings us back here. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? This is why it's good. Hey, if you don't know a word, go look it up. See what's going on. And I was talking to my mom about a year ago. And I told my mom, I said, I think the reason our men have issues with patriarchy is because it's unnatural. She was like, what you mean? I said, I can't recall a time in history, in Black American history, where men were 100% like in charge or 100% patriarchal. It just, think about it. Really think about it. There has never been a time in Black American history where the men as a collective have ran the situation? Never. Even when they implemented this stuff, the mama really ran everything. The daddy still took care of everything. He paid for stuff if he worked. I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about who was really running the doggone households. It's always been us. And that's why I say it make this picture here make more and more sense the more that I look at it. You see what I'm saying? So in order to be in these 5 civilized tribes, according to them, you had to take on patrilineal tracing, okay? Or descent, I'm sorry. Let me read it again. Patrilineal descent is a social organizational system predicated on the tracing of kinship through the male line. It is a common kinship system in which the individual's family membership derives from and is recorded through their father's lineage. Patrilineality generally involves the inheritance of property, rights, names, or titles by persons related through the male kin. Okay, the term derives from Latin words pater, which is father, and linea, which is thread. So this ain't even used right. So according to the government, they were saying like as far as like your inheritance come through the patrilineal descent. So if it was your daddy land, it was yours. You see what I'm saying? Versus your mama's. But remember, they got to take that power out of that divine feminine. They got to take that power out of the divine feminine. And we've seen it already on the DNA testing. What did they tell us on the DNA testing? Fathers' genetics go from father to son. And from father to daughter, it can be changed. It can be changed from father to anybody. But the only thing that passes from parent to child that goes unchanged is what? The mitochondrial gene, okay? The Y chromosome can be passed and be changed. The mitochondrial gene is the only thing that cannot be changed. So to be completely honest, with that being said, it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these paternity tests be jacked up and wrong. I'm just saying. Because the Y chromosome can be changed from father to child. I'm going off subject. But what I'm saying that to say is technically you are not the child of your father. That is that biblical European shit. You are the child of your mother. I tell everybody on here, when y'all go and doing y'all genealogy, go through your mother first, because you know you come from her. Who knows what was going on back then with your daddy? You see what I'm saying? Go do your mother's side first and then go trace your father. Okay? Thank you, Anais, for the super chat. Teach Vu, I'm loving is coming from a woman. Yeah, listen. Everything we've been taught has been backwards. Everything we've been taught has been backwards. But back to the article, because I think it's only like a small little paragraph to read. It says elements of civilization within Southern Indian societies predated removal. The Cherokee, for example, established a written language in 1821, a national Supreme Court in 1822, and a written constitution in 1827. The other foreign nations had similar, if less noted, developments. Now, we already talked about that when we spoke about the Indians going to do their meetings to talk about treaties and laws and stuff. I'm sorry. Listen. Look how things come full circle, Dimple Pop. They changed the chess rules. The queen has always been since the beginning of time with this game that was probably played and created by us. The queen has always been, when the queen goes, the game is over. You can have 11 pieces on the board. Now they've changed it to where they say, oh, it's the king no, but they have to have the game depict reality now. You get it? I've been playing chess. My daddy taught us how to play chess when I was 3-4 years old. I know what I'm talking about. I don't know what Google done updated in 2021. But I know what the rules used to be before 2021. Okay? Now, but they have to, they got to keep us off our rocker. That's the way it goes. Now, I want to get into this now because we had a lot of people and a lot of moving pieces that were very intricate in every wars. Without us, I'm sorry, these wars are not won. Period. Point blank. Okay? So, let me go into the Buffalo Soldiers. I think I pulled them. Hold on. Is this it? I don't know. I don't think this is it, but we're going to roll with it. Let's go with the move. Remember, when you see things like Native American, that means us, Indians, Indigenous Black Americans, okay? So look, this one here is by www.alexandria.gov. It's called We Are All Americans, Native Americans in the Civil War. Remember, them $5 footlongs ain't fought shh. Okay? Alliances to the federal government. Approximately 20,000 Native Americans served, they mean Indians, served in the Union and Confederate armies during the Civil War, participating in battles such as Pea Ridge, Second Manassas, Antietam, Spotsylvania, Cold Harbor, and in federal assaults on Petersburg. By fighting with the white man, Native Americans or Indians hoped to gain favor with the prevailing government by supporting the war effort. They also saw war service as a means to end discrimination and relocation from ancestral lands. Remember, it's always been about lands to Western territories. Instead, the Civil War proved to be the Native Americans or Indians' last effort to stop the tidal wave of American expansion. While the war raged on African Americans, there you go. While the war raged and African Americans or us see how they try to listen. This is very important. Here they're saying Native Americans, right? But look at how they separate us from the story. Now they're talking about how the so-called Native Americans was fighting. I ain't seen Anne Reed yet. But then they turn around and say over here, African Americans to separate us from our identity. You see what I'm saying? While the war raged and African Americans were proclaimed free, the U.S. government continued its policies of pacification and removal of Native Americans. They mean Indians, okay? I'm going to stop saying Native Americans. I'm going to just say Indians. The Delaware Nation had a long history of allegiance to the U.S. government, despite removal to the Wichita Indian Agency in Oklahoma and the Indian Territory in Kansas. On October 1st, 1861, the Delaware proclaimed their support for the Union. Seeking favor from Washington, 170 out of 201 Delaware men volunteered in the Union Army. A journalist from Harper's Weekly described them as being armed with tomahawks, scalping knives, and rifles, okay? In January 1862, William Dole, U.S. Commissioner of Indian Affairs, asked Indian agents to engage forthwith all the vigorous and able-bodied Indians in their respective agencies. The request resulted in the assembly of the 1st and 2nd Indian Home Guard that included Delaware, Creek, Seminole, Kickapoo, Seneca, Osage, Shawnee, Choctaw, and Chickasaw. The Delaware demonstrated their loyalty, daring, and hardihood during the sacking of the Wichita Agency in October 1862. Considered a major Union victory, Native Americans or Indians, cavalry killed 5 Confederate agents, took the rebel flags and 1,200 in Confederate currencies, 100 ponies, and burned correspondence along with agent buildings. Let me show y'all something. I didn't email these to myself, but I got to pull this up. Give me 1 second. Let me show y'all something right quick. Because see, I'm about to show you how they write themselves into the story, or how they write other people into our slots of the story. Hold on. Stand by. I'm going to show y'all something. Y'all like the video if you haven't already, please, and thank you. I want to show you guys something. I had to send this to myself. My bad. Now, according to these folk, these people is saying Native American this, Native American that, Native American this, Native American that, right? But when I go look up photos from the Civil War, now this is a depiction. Who that look like? Come and join us, brothers. Look, let me read it again, what they said. Let me read it again, what they saying. Right? The Delaware Nation had a long history of allegiance to the U.S. government, despite removal to the Wichita Indian Agency in Oklahoma and the Indian Territory in Kansas. On October 1st, 1861, the Delaware proclaimed their support for the Union. Seeking favor from Washington, 170 out of 201 Delaware men volunteered in the Union Army. What a $5 footlongs? I got more. Not that one. This is a real picture. What a $5 footlongs? I'll wait. But do you see how this literature, they will literally separate the African American from the Native American because they want you to think that the Native American that fought in these wars were the $5 footlongs. None of them people could listen. This is why it's imperative that you understand when them people trying to tell you without telling you. That don't look like no $5 footlongs. That don't look like no $5 footlong. I think I got one more picture on here. Look at these Calvaries. What a $5 footlongs. This the Union Army. This the Union Army. Where is the $5 footlongs? I'm confused. All black platoon. But they write it as if it was the Native Americans. Okay, well, we got pictures of black ones. Show me the Native American ones. If you're trying to make me believe that African Americans were separate from the Native American, fine. Show me the Native American platoons then. Don't show me one picture of some half and half Mongolian sitting down with a blicky in his hand. No, I don't want to see that. I need to see the platoons of these Native Americans. You won't find it. You won't find it. Because it doesn't exist. But watch the way they do history. They separated the African American from the Native American because in today's time, the Native American is the $5 footlong. So you're not going to put two and two together that the so-called Native American is really your great-granddaddy. You get it? It is imperative that you read between the bull because there's a lot of bull in all of these. I don't want to see pictures of 3-4 Indians with a blicky. No. Show me them Native Americans that went with the Union Army, that had their uniform on and their blickies and all of that, their muskets. Show me that picture. If you can't show me that, it doesn't exist. This is very important that we understand this. Okay? I don't care what pictures they draw. I don't care what they do. And like I say, every single person in this chat got somebody in your ancestry that done fought down in one of them wars because we've always fought in them wars. Do you hear me? They want to say it's the $5 footlongs. Show me the photos. And if you got photos of the niggas, I know you got photos of them. And if you don't have photos of them, it never existed. If you don't have photos of the $5 footlongs, like you say, who volunteered and did all of this, it never happened. I need us to figure that out. You see what I'm saying? See how shit get gray, get murky when certain details you get to looking up. When you get to looking up them details, now don't get me wrong. Listen, a $5 foot long will get on here and be like, we did have Native Americans that fought. Okay, who in your family fought? Well, I got pictures and they'll show you one. I can go Google one. They'll show you one Native American sitting in the chair with a blicky and be like, oh yeah, see, he fought. Let me show you. Native American Civil War. Let me show you. I'm about to show you right now. I'm about to show you when you Google this. Look, it's gonna be. Look, hold on. Let me bring you over here. When you Google these folks and you say, okay, show me the Native Americans that fought in the war. This what they show you. This what they show you. One man. What I'm supposed to do with that? I want to see that shit. What I'm supposed to do with this? They'll show you this. See? They did fight in the Civil War. You see them? Hold on. Let me show you what else they'll show you. They'll show you. Let me see what this is. Now, I want to go see this or go back. Shit. Let me go back to that photo. I'm trying to see this picture. I'm going to let it load up. Load up the photo. Girl, they gonna Australian breakdance us to death. Do you hear me? I'm so tired of seeing that damn stuff. All right, these are depictions. Let me see. What's this? Hell, even these are black. Even these are black people. And look what they call them, California volunteers. They say they fought against the Shoshone tribe. They don't have no photos. Look, they'll show you onesie-twosies or depictions. They don't have no photos of no Native Americans fighting in no wars because they never did. That's our people doing that. That's my stuff. That's our stuff. You see what I'm saying? Or they'll show you this one. They love this one here. They love that one. Stop it. You can tell these were the mixed breeds here. What year for what, Sergeant? All I'm telling you is no matter what no books tell you, no matter what Google tell you, when you go to researching this crap, this them Native Americans right here. The ones they call Native American. But they'll separate them from the black Americans. You see what I'm saying? So throw you off the trail. Oh, California soldiers, what year was that? Hold on. Let me go back. I ain't close it. It says half of the 19th century, while Native Americans had collected a few firearms from various blah, blah, blah. Let me go back up. Hold on. The Shoshone Indians are fairly well-known tribe with the descendants in Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Wyoming, and California. One of their most famous members was Sacagawea, who accompanied storied explorers Meriwether Lewis and William Clark in the early 1800s. I don't know. Let me see. Let me go up. Maybe I missed it. 1863, Patrick Connor led his troops to Fort Douglas, Utah, toward the snow-covering plains in Shoshone Chief. So 1863, near what is known Preston. Yeah, 1863. That's the year, Sergeant. But I want you guys to be mindful of this, okay? When we dealing with this. Now, hold on. Was I finished with this article? Oh no. Let me read a little bit more over here. Dang, that's a nice little read. Let me read I want to read this part. Civil War with the Cherokee Nation. And then we're going to move on. In 1861, the Cherokee Nation in the West, 1,000. Cherokee Nation, 21,000. Where all them Native Americans? Girl, they probably don't have 21,000 Native Americans today. Listen, number 21,000 and was experiencing its own internal civil war. The nation divided with one side led by Chief John Ross and the other by renegade Stan Wadey. Although Ross vowed to remain neutral, Confederate victories at First Manassas and Wilson's Creek forced the Cherokee to reassess their position. The federal government had abandoned Indian Territory early on into the war, and all other Native American nations and the Cherokee borders were Confederate, leaving the nation vulnerable to Confederate occupation. Stan Wadey received a commission as a colonel in the Confederate Army and now commanded a battalion of Cherokee reluctantly. And on October 7, 1861, Ross signed a treaty transferring all obligations due to the Cherokee from the U.S. government to the Confederate States. Don't that remind you of Glory? Remember, oh boy, got hold on. I'm dying. Now it's coming to me harder. Remember in the movie Glory? Y'all seen the movie Glory? In the movie Glory, the clear man who was commanding the platoon, he was trash. Remember, he was soft. He was scared. He went to war the first time and he bitched up. And then remember, he came back and they commissioned him the colonel. Remember, because back then you didn't have to go to school or nothing. They just be like, hey, you promoted. You was a buck sergeant. Now you're a colonel. You know what I'm saying? And remember, he didn't want to run that squadron, that battalion, and he brought his friend with him. That sounds like this. Could it be that those people in Glory were actually from the Cherokee tribes? Because if I can recall that movie correctly, he got commissioned the colonel like real fast, and they were just like Colonel Shaw. Yup, you know it, Flower Child. You know I ain't lying. He got commissioned a colonel real fast, and then they was like, you need to go do that battalion, and he didn't really want to do it. And remember, Denzel's character knew that he was a bitch. Remember? Denzel's character knew he was a bitch. Not only that, the black dude who they grew up with, who thought that he gonna get a pass because he grew up with them, remember him? He knew, everybody knew he was a bitch. They knew he was a whole ass nigga. But he was in charge of, girl, it's given that's what this was. We should do a watch party, right, Diva? Because this is crazy. I don't know why I'm reading that. I'm just looking at the movie as I'm reading it. But anyways, it says, where was I? Oh, Stan Wadey received commission as a colonel in the Confederate Army and now commanded a battalion of Cherokee reluctantly on October 7, 1861. Ross signed a treaty transferring all obligations due to the Cherokee from the U.S. government to the Confederate States. In the treaty, Cherokee were guaranteed protection, rations of food, livestock, tools, and other goods, as well as delegate to the Confederate Congress at Richmond. In exchange, the Cherokee would furnish 10 companies of mounted men and allow the construction of military posts and roads within the Cherokee Nation. However, no Indian regiment was to be called on to fight outside Indian territory. So basically what was happening was, if the Cherokee people came and gave them men, they were going to get protections, food, livestock, and all that in return. But they never called on them to do it, allegedly, according to this, okay? As a result of the treaty, The 2nd Cherokee Mounted Rifles, led by Colonel John Drew, was formed following the Battle of Pea Ridge, Arkansas, March 7 and 8, 1862. Drew's Mounted Rifles defected to the Union forces in Kansas, where they joined the Indian Home Guard. In the summer of 1862, federal troops captured Ross, who was paroled and spent the remainder of the war in Washington and Philadelphia, proclaiming Cherokee loyalty to the Union. In his absence, Colonel Stan Wadey, was chosen principal chief of the Cherokee Nation and immediately drafted all Cherokee males 18 to 50, between ages 18 and 50, into Confederate military services. Wadey was a daring cavalry rider who was skilled at hit and run tactics. He was considered a genius in guerrilla warfare and the most successful field commander in the Trans-Mississippi West. Promoted to brigadier general in May 1864, Wadey was placed in charge of the Indian Cavalry Brigade, which was composed of the 1st and 2nd Cherokee Cavalry and battalions of Creek, Osage, and Seminole. He achieved one of the greatest successes at Pleasant Bluff, Arkansas on June 10, 1864, capturing the Union steamboat J.R. Williams, which was loaded with supplies valued at $120,000. That's a lot of money for back then. At the Second Battle of Cabin Creek, Indian Territory, his cavalry brigade captured 129 supply wagons and 740 mules, took 120 prisoners, and left 200 casualties. At the end of the war, General Stan Wadey was the last to surrender, laying down arms 2 months after General Robert E. Lee and a month after General E. Kirby Smith, commander of all troops west of the Mississippi. The Cherokee Nation was the most negatively affected of all Native American tribes during the Civil War. Its population declining, see how they writing us out, from 21,000 to 15,000 by 1865. Despite the federal government's promise to pardon all Cherokees involved with the Confederacy, the was considered disloyal and those rights were revoked. They used them. That's what they did. They used them. I want to see John Wadey because his name sounds familiar. Hold on. What is his name? Stan Wadey. I'm sorry. I want to see him. I need to put my eyes on him. And Lord, let's just hope they come up with the truth. But it's Google. You know what I mean? So this who they say Cherokee. And you know what? To be completely honest, I believe it in 2024 because black people still running behind these clear folk and it bothers me. It grinds my gears. This who they trying to say Stan Wadey was. That's who they say it was. And come to think about it, it probably was. Let's move on. That was just, I didn't mean to. Yeah. Let's move on. So where was I? So what's the moral to this article? The moral to this article is they use the Cherokee people to get all of their supplies, to seize all these people, to do all this fighting as they always have, and then they play them at the end. We've been getting played for hundreds of years. That's what frustrates me. Maybe I was here in the 1800s and I got played. So when I came back in the early 1980s, maybe my soul recycled and said, girl, your mission is to make sure y'all don't get played again. I feel like that's what it was. Maybe I was here in the past at some point when we got paid and when we got played by these folk in the past. And I think my mission when I came back and recycled and rejuvenated or regenerated back into this world, maybe my sole mission was to tell you niggas, y'all getting played. Because I done been here and seen it before. Seen this movie before. Welcome to the party. You're late. That's what I really be feeling like that when I be telling people because I be like, man, how they don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, that probably be what it is, though. I probably was around when we got played before. And when my soul recycled, that was my mission, to come and tell niggas, hey, they playing in y'all face. For real, man. For real. All right. Where was I going? Let's go. Oh, Buffalo Soldiers. Let's get them up here. Shout out to the Buffalo Soldiers. Do you know that the only reason the military is what it is because of the Buffalo Soldiers? Buffalo Soldiers. Dread like Rasta. Stolen from, brought to America, even though we weren't stolen from Africa. He was a Buffalo Soldier in the heart of America. Shout out to by Marley Half and Half. So let's get into the Buffalo Soldiers. They model American military after these black men. Let me say that again. America's military is modeled after these black men. Indigenous black men, to say the least. You know what I'm saying? Your Army, your Marine Corps would not exist in the manner in which it does had it not been for the Buffalo Soldiers, okay? Let's get into it. To this day, I can't remember what base it is. They actually have like a mural of them. Buffalo Soldiers. African Americans, remember, they try to throw us off with the labels. But African Americans served in the U.S. military during the Civil War and continued to serve afterwards. Many of these soldiers went on to fight in the Spanish-American War and the Philippine-American War. Although the pay was low, only $13 a month, many African Americans enlisted because they could earn more and be treated with more dignity than they had often received in civilian life. In 1866, Congress established 6 all-black regiments, consolidated to 4 shortly after, to help rebuild the country after the Civil War and to fight in the Western frontier during the Plains Wars. It was from one of these regiments, the 10th Cavalry, that the nickname Buffalo Soldier was born. American Plains Indians who fought against these soldiers referred to the black cavalry troops as Buffalo Soldiers because of their dark, curly hair, which resembled a buffalo's coat, and because of their fierce nature of fighting. So now, the way they're posturing this is that the Buffalo Soldiers were black people who, what we know now, fought against other black people. Okay? When they say fought against the Indians, okay? But they're going to call the Buffalo Soldiers Native Americans and call the other people the Indians. Remind you, the Indians were fighting back America like crazy. The only reason they were able to win is because they had to enlist the help of us. Let me say that again. We had so many Indian wars that was going on in around this time, before and after this time, that the only way these clear folks knew that they could win, they had to enlist some of us. Hence the Buffalo Soldiers. Okay? The nickname soon became synonymous with all African-American regiments formed in 1866. Remind you, the term didn't exist for us, not as a label. In addition to their military duties, the Buffalo Soldiers also served as some of the first caretakers of the national parks. In 1991 and 1913, the U.S. Army served as the official administrator of the Yosemite and Sequoia National Parks. These soldiers were stationed at the Presidio of San Francisco during the winter months and then served in the Sierra during the summer months. While in the park, soldiers' duties included fighting wildfire, curbing poaching of the park's wildlife, ending illegal grazing of livestock and federal lands, and construction roads, trails, and other infrastructure. In 1903, Captain Charles Young led a company of the Buffalo Soldiers in the Sequoia and General Grant, now Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. Young and his troops managed to complete more infrastructure improvements than those that from the previous 3 years. They completed a road to the giant forest and a road to the base of Morro Rock. Their work on these new roads now allow the public to access the mountaintop forest for the first time. I don't like this. I feel like they basically saying we did everything but fight when that was the furthest from the truth. They telling us all these things these Buffalo Soldiers did, but I'm going to keep reading. Maybe it's further down. The Buffalo Soldier regiments went on to serve in the U.S. Army with distinction and honor for nearly the next 9 decades. The story's Buffalo Soldiers regiment came to an end during the Korean War and the institution of the Executive Order 9981. Here we present the individual stories of the Buffalo Soldiers sorted by the regiment in which the men served. Choose a regiment from the pictures and list below their view to view them stories. Okay. I'll pick one. Let me see, because I think that's the end of the thing. Let me just pick one. What's these numbers? Let me just grab one. Let me do 24. The 24th U.S. Infantry. Remind you, infantry is a combat job. Aaron R. Fisher was born in 1892 in Laos. He enlisted in the Army in 1911. He served with the Buffalo Soldiers of the 24th Infantry during the punitive expedition into Mexico. He was an officer in the all-black 366th Infantry in World War I. He received the Distinguished Service Cross and France Croix de Guerre for his actions in France. He was an ROTC instructor at Wilberforce University from 1936 to 1947. He died November 22nd, 1985 in Xenia, Ohio. He graduated. Okay, Benjamin O. Davis Jr. was born in Washington, D.C. in 1912. He graduated from West Point in 1936. He was the 4th African-American graduate from West Point. During World War II, he led the renowned Tuskegee Airmen. He attained the rank of 4-star general in 1998. Oh, he just died. He died in 2002 and is buried in Arlington National Park. Wow. So he led the Tuskegee Airmen. Buffalo Soldiers in the Medal of Honor. On July 12, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed into law the awarding of the U.S. Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor was awarded to those distinguished themselves by the gallantry in action. As of June 2024, 95 African Americans have received the Medal of Honor. Join a park ranger Saturday, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? During the almost 90 years of the Buffalo Soldiers served in segregation U.S. Army units, 30 Buffalo Soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor. They received the medal for actions in the Plains Wars through the Korean Wars. Discovered 4 or more who were awarded the nation's highest honor and bravery. Okay, so they just gone over people who going, and we'll do a Buffalo Soldiers live one day too. We'll definitely get into the Buffalo Soldiers and see more about them, because see what they're trying to paint in this article is that, oh yeah, they cleared the bush, they helped people to do this. Nah, these were elite fighters, nigga. Y'all wouldn't have won none of them wars without the so-called Buffalo Soldiers. And did y'all see that they say it expanded 9 decades? So it wasn't just one small group. They say it expanded 9 decades. Okay. All right. And West Point, yeah, Dina. West Point is a prestigious military college. That's like Harvard of the military. That's what West Point is. Thank you, honey, for the super chat. Go Voo, facts on facts. Wake up, people. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Miss Keedy, thank you for the super chat. Around what time did they usher in $5 footlongs? I'll be pressed for Educational Fridays. Love you, Voo. It was in the mid 1800s. I can go pull it up. I thought I had an article. Hold on. It was in the mid 1800s or the early to mid 1800s when they started coming off with them damn $5 footlongs. Hold on. Yeah, I spell that right. I hope I'm asking this right. 1817. Remember, they come up under these 5 civilized tribes. Listen, even though some of us went a part of it, the representation or the people that was at the top of most of these tribes were the $5 footlongs. So according to this Google, it says in 1817, the Cherokee became the first Native American recognized as U.S. citizens under Article 8 of 1817 Cherokee Treaty. Upwards of 300 Cherokees, heads of families, in the honest simplicity of their souls, made an election to become American citizens. So look, this is how it went. When they labeled us as Indians, and America had their government, we was like, that's on y'all. We ain't doing that. We ain't following y'all government. We ain't doing none of that. We doing our own thing. So one of the ways that the stipulations for being under the civilized tribe was, like we read earlier, you had to take on all of the Western ways of society: religion, husbandry, animal husbandry, patrilineage, all of that stuff. So the ones who conformed were in the 5 civilized tribes, but the other ones were called wild Indians until they just labeled us all Negro. So it was the early 1800s. Thank you for the super chat, Miss Kitty. I appreciate you. Cosmic Sun Soul, thank you for becoming a new member. All right, listen. I want to go to, before we get into, let's go through this timeline of the Civil War, because we got to understand how it went, right? All right. It's a brief timeline we're going to roll through. Then I'm going to show y'all this video from Dane. All right. According to history.com, causes of civil war. Now, this is where we're going to have to decode the bull, okay? This is where we will decode the bull. Right here is where we will decode the bull, okay? All right. Let me go up. Causes of the Civil War. Listen, I'm going to read this, but I'm telling you now, this is all about money. Watch how they word it, and watch how, if you don't look through the bull crap, you won't see it. It says in the mid-19th century, that's the middle 1800s, while the United States was experiencing an era of tremendous growth, a fundamental economic difference existed between the country's northern and southern regions. I told y'all, the North was mad and hating on the South because the South was making money hand over fist. It wasn't taxed. And the North was like, hey, bro, you need to come pay taxes on that. And we need to count your money to make sure you ain't making money hand over fist. And we need in on that. And the South was like, nah, bro, we not doing that. And the next thing you know, boom, 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 boom. Okay? But watch how they word it. In the North, manufacturing and industry was well established, and agriculture was mostly limited to small-scale farms, while the South's economy was based on a system of large-scale farming that depended on the labor of Black enslaved people to grow certain crops, especially cotton and tobacco. Why is this important? The South was balling. I'm going to give it to you in a layman term. The South was balling. Up north, they was all right, little sniggly giggly here and there. But in the South, they was balling hand over fist. In the North was like, I don't like that shit. I'm going to drop a dime on these niggas. You know what I'm saying? Black people fought in that too. Black people fought for it because it was their best interest as well. Remember, all of us wasn't slaves. All of us wasn't slaves. You know the reason why there's even a labor union or a labor board or you work 40 hours a week is because the South lost this war? Let's move on. Growing abolitionist sentiment in the North after the 1830s and Northern opposition to slavery extension into the new Western territories led many Southerners to fear that the existence of slavery in America and thus the backbone of their economy was in danger. AKA, them people was like, listen, because they keep tying to slavery as if everybody in the South, every Black person in the South was slave. Honestly, it was a small group of people and a small number of people who owned slaves because you had to be rich to own slaves. This is what it was. The South was making money hand over fist and wasn't paying no taxes. Okay? And them people, according to this, is saying that the Southerners feared that the existence of slavery in America, and thus the backbone of their economy was in danger, meaning their money was on the line, girl. And yes, it was tied to slavery, obviously, because even the ones that they did pay, they paid little to nothing. So, yay, they won't keep all their money in their pocket. In 1854, the U.S. Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This is very important. I think we went over this over here, which essentially opened up all new territories to slavery by asserting the rule of the popular sovereignty over congressional edit. Pro and anti-slavery forces struggled violently in bleeding Kansas, while opposition to the act in the North led to the formation of the Republican Party, a new political entity based on the principle of opposing slavery extensions into the Western Territory. After the Supreme Court ruling in the Dred Scott case, 1857, confirmed the legality of slavery in the territories, the abolitionist John Brown raids at Harper's Ferry in 1859 convinced more and more Southerners that their northern neighbors were bent on the destruction of the peculiar institution that sustained them. Abraham Lincoln's election in November 1860 was the final straw, and within 3 months, 7 southern states, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas, had seceded from the United States. Let me give it to you in short. Them people up north was acting like they really gave a damn about niggas. They didn't care. It was about money. It was all about money. That's what this is all behind, money. Them niggas balling. I don't like that shit. Niggas, they eating shrimp and lobster, and we up here eating chicken. We still catching our own chickens. Nah, I don't like that. That's what this was all about. It just so happened the slaves was attached to it. Now look, outbreak of the Civil War, 1861. Even as Lincoln took office in March of 1861, Confederate forces threatened the federal-held Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina. On April 12th, after Lincoln ordered a fleet to resupply Sumter, the Confederate armed artillery fired their first shots of the Civil War. Sumter's commander, Major Robert Anderson, surrendered after less than 2 days of bombardment, leaving the fort in the hands of the Confederate forces under Pierre G.T. Beauregard, okay? 4 more southern states, Virginia, Arkansas, North Carolina, and Tennessee, joined the Confederacy after Fort Sumter. Border slave states like Missouri, Kentucky, and Maryland did not secede, but there was much Confederate sympathy among their citizens. Now, let me ask you a question. The way this reads, you would think it was mostly clear people and it was a little bit of black people, and all these clear people was siding with, obviously the other clear people who own slaves. And you know what? That's what they show us in the movie. That's what they show us in anything. But that is to get you emotional. That's to tie your emotionalism to what they talking about. But it had nothing to do with the slaves, and it had nothing. These people were fighting for their pocketbooks, okay? The gag is it was a lot of black people, right, who fought on the side of the Confederate. I don't know if y'all have seen it today. There's a video of this black guy. Let me see if I can pull it up. This black guy who's fighting for his Confederacy, who fighting for the flag. And now it sounds warped because we've been indoctrinated to believe what? If you're on the side of the Confederate, you must be blah, 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 blah. Them people had ties. And mind you, the Confederate flag that we see now was stolen from us anyway. It was ours. Let me show y'all this right quick. Let me show y'all this because this is very important. Look, watch this man. Hold on. Let me let the ad play.
Something. That X is a Christian symbol. That X is Andrew up on that cross. Because Andrew knew that the first 3 words of Christ's name in Greek meant it was an honorable thing. If you didn't know how to read, write your name, you put an X on the paper because it was a Christian symbol. Don't you come around here telling me about what Beauregard and his men did. They had the stars and bars because they believed that you Yankee friends hijacked the stars and stars. And it looked so much alike in a battle when one of them, their third men was shooting on their own men. And when the Southern men chose this flag, they knew it was a Christian symbol. So don't come around here lying on my flag.
Did y'all catch that? It's a short video. I'll put the link in the chat. Did y'all catch what this man said?
And buddy, let me tell you.
I think this went over some people's head. Hold on. Let me share it so y'all can see it. Hold on.
Something that X is a Christian.
Hold on. I think this went over some of y'all head, and I want y'all to hear it again. It's only like 38 seconds. Copy the link. I'm about to put the link in the chat for y'all. This is a black man. And listen, to me, the very first time I seen a black person on the side of the Confederate, I said, this nigga is crazy. But when you go to really peeling back the layers of these black folk on the side of this Confederacy, you'll understand that it was a lot of black folk back then who fought on the side of the Confederacy. Because, yeah, they had black slaves, and yeah, some black people owned slaves. We know that. But it wasn't about that. That sensationalism and emotionalism, that bullshit, them people was fighting for their pocketbooks. You see what I'm saying? And their freedom. Remember, the South has seceded from the North. That's y'all. Whatever y'all got going on with y'all Americans and all of that, that's between y'all. That don't have nothing to do with us. Okay? Listen to this man when he talk about, don't tell me nothing about my flag, right? And he gonna talk about the stars and stripes on the American flag, and he gonna talk about the X on the Confederate flag. He's saying that the X on the Confederate flag is indicative to how the so-called blacks, the indigenous people who could not read or write because they wasn't institutionalized or institutionally educated, they had to draw X to sign their name. Listen to this man. On the onset, it sounded like this man crazy as hell. But I swear it took for me to really open in my eyes to realize what he's saying. Look.
And buddy, let me tell you something. That X is a Christian symbol. That X is Andrew up on that cross. Because Andrew knew that the first three words of Christ's name in Greek meant it was an honorable thing. If you didn't know how to read, write your name, you put an X on the paper because it was a Christian symbol.
You hear that? You hear that? He's saying the X on remember, the Confederate flag is made in the X. The stars and all that go into an X. What he's saying is, don't tell me about my flag because this was a Christian symbol or an honorable symbol to put an X, because if you didn't know how to read or write, you had to sign your name with an X. I know people today who talk about how their parents still sign their names with X's. Pay attention.
Don't you come around here telling me about what Beauregard and his men did. They had the stars and bars because they believed that you Yankee friends hijacked the stars and stripes. And it looked so much alike in a battle when one of them, their third man was shooting.
Hey, did you catch that? Did you catch that? He said, don't you tell me what Beauregard said. We just read about Beauregard. He said they hijacked this flag because them stars and stripes with them Yankees, that's the people up north, they look so much alike. Listen, they couldn't tell the difference. Listen to what he's saying.
Beauregard and his men did. They had the stars and bars because they believed that you Yankee friends hijacked the stars and stripes. And
they had the stars and bars because they believed you Yankee friends hijacked the stars and stripes. Look.
So much alike in a battle when one of them, their third men, was shooting on their own men. And when the Southern men chose this flag, they knew it was a Christian symbol. So don't come around here lying on my flag.
So what he's saying is, when it came to the American flag with the stars and stripes, it was too confusing. The Yankees, which were the Northerners, couldn't tell the difference. So when they hijacked that flag, when the Southerners said we're gonna adopt this flag, it's to separate us from them. Now, is it used to be racist today? Hell yeah. Duh. Okay. They still use it today. I mean, they're using it. They're being racist with it today. But that's because clear people who don't create nothing, all they do is just adopt shit and co-opt shit. But at the end of the day, that man was talking with pride. Because, and again, ignorant me would have been like, oh, I ain't trying to hear nothing this man saying. He over there protecting the damn Confederate flag. But he's protecting it because that was of them people down there. Get the movies out of your head. It wasn't the way they depicted it. I promise you. Okay? Remember, around this time, they indoctrinated with the Bible, even in the movie Glory. Remember when they was getting ready to go to war the next day and they was sitting around, oh my Lord, 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 Lord. Remember? Oh my Lord, Lord. They're indoctrinated around this time. They can't read or write, but they know about that church. I need you to understand this. So he said, don't tell me about what Beauregard talking about. We just talked about Beauregard over here. We literally just read his name. Look. It says, Lincoln ordered a fleet to resupply Sumter. Confederate Army artillery fired the first shots into the Civil War. Sumter's commander, Major Robert R. Anderson, surrendered after less than 2 days of bombardment, leaving the fort in the hands of Confederate forces under Pierre G.T. Beauregard. So he said, don't you tell me nothing about what no Beauregard talking about. Them people hijacked this flag because they couldn't tell the difference between them and them damn Yankees. You get it? All right. On the surface, the Civil War may have seemed a lopsided conflict, with the 23 states of the Union enjoying an enormous advantage of the population manufacturing, including arms production and railroad construction. The Confederate had a strong military tradition, along with some of the best soldiers and commanders in the nation. Let me rephrase that, girl. They had more people in the South than they had up north. You want to know why Abraham Lincoln was saying, hey, if y'all come fight with us, we'll give you freedom? They needed the manpower. They needed the manpower. Remember when we talked about Napoleon having the Mississippi, not the Louisiana Purchase? Remember we talked about that? Remember, they owned all the way up to, they didn't get Florida, but they owned all the way up to, I want to say, South Carolina, Georgia time frame. Areas. A lot. When them people inherited the Louisiana Purchase, they not only inherited land, they inherited people too. So the gag is, while they sitting up here saying, yeah, the North had this, that, and the third, the North didn't have the manpower. Why did Abraham Lincoln call down to the slaves and say, hey, if you get free and you can come up here, we'll promise you freedom. Come fight with us. They needed the manpower. Because no matter what artillery they had, no matter what type of, it didn't matter what they didn't have the people for it. Okay? They also had a cause they believed in, preserving their long-held traditions and institutions, chief among these being slavery, okay? In the first battle of Bull Run, known in the South as First Manassas, on July 21st, 1861, 35,000 Confederate soldiers under the command of Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson forced a greater number of Union forces or federal to retreat towards Washington, D.C., dashing any hopes of a quick Union victory and leading Lincoln to call for 500,000 more recruits. Did I not just say that? I know what I said. I was there when I said it. They didn't have the manpower. Listen, when they lost their first battle, Lincoln needed 500,000 more people. In fact, both sides' initial call for troops had to be winded after it became clear that the war would not be a limited or short conflict. Y'all gotta wake up. Let's go into the Civil War in Virginia. George B. McClellan, who replaced General Winfield Scott as Supreme Commander of the Union Army after the first months of the war, was beloved by his troops. By his reluctance to advance, frustrated Lincoln. In the spring of 1862, McClellan finally led his army of the Potomac
Lee, the courtly commander who turned out to be a battlefield gambler. Born in 1807, Lee is the son of Revolutionary War hero Light Horse Harry Lee.
1 second, y'all.
By the outbreak of the Civil War, he is a colonel in the U.S. Army.
If things had been very slightly different, Lee might
Wait,
have led
one more.
the North.
There must have been
the
on
South.
this.
In fact,
Hold
he
on.
was offered command of the Union armies at the beginning of the war. And he pondered this decision very carefully, but he finally decided that his loyalties lay with Virginia rather than with the United States.
I think it's this. Yeah, it's
Confederate President Jefferson Davis.
Sorry for the interruption. Where was I? Okay, listen. The combined forces of Robert E. Lee and Jackson successfully drove back McClellan's army in the 7 days battle, June 25th through July 1st, and a cautious McClellan called for yet more reinforcements in order to move against Richmond. Lincoln refused and instead withdrew the Army of the Potomac to Washington. By mid-1862, McClellan had been replaced as Union General-in-Chief by Henry W. Halleck, though he remained in command of the Army of Potomac. Okay, they scrambling. Lee then moved his troops northward and split his men, sending Jackson to meet Pope's forces near Manassas, while Lee himself moved separately with the second half of the army. If y'all don't know who Lee is, Robert E. Lee. That's what they're talking about. On August 29th, Union troops led by John Pope struck Jackson's forces in the Second Battle of Bull Run, 2nd Manassas. The next day, Lee hit the Federal left flank with a massive assault, driving Pope's men back toward Washington. On the heels of the victory of Manassas, Lee began the first Confederate invasion of the North. Despite contradictory orders from Lincoln and Halleck, McClellan was able to reorganize his army and strike at Lee on September 14th in Maryland, driving the Confederates back to a defensive position along Antietam Creek near Sharpsburg. Okay, so basically everything popping off at this point. Everything popping off. Really quickly, after Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln had used the occasion of the Union victory at Antietam to issue a preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. He recruiting, which freed all slave people in the state after January 1st, 1863. He justified his decision as wartime measures and did not go so far as to free the enslaved people in the border states loyal to the Union. Still, the Emancipation Proclamation deprived the Confederacy of the bulk of its labor forces and put international public opinion strongly in the Union side. Some of the 186,000 black Civil War soldiers would join the Union Army by the time the war ended in 1865, and 38,000 lost their lives. Again, where is the $5 footlongs? I don't see them. Lincoln freed them damn slaves because he needed the bodies. You see what I'm saying? He needed soldiers. He needed bodies. He needed people. He was already under the table telling them, sending them through letters and all of that. Hey, if you can get free and you are a slave, even if you're a free man, they had free. Think about in the movie Glory. They had freemen fought on the side of the Union as well. Y'all do know that. So it wasn't all slaves. But he sent word to the South, if you can get free and you can get up here, you can fight for us. Another failed promise. You can fight for us and we'll take care of you. We'll give you freedom. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. And they reneged on all of it except the doggone so-called freedom. But they had to free them because remember, we were what? 3/5 of a man? 3/5? So when they wanted to tax us, how you going to tax cattle? How you going to tax a cow? So no. We need to free them and get them in the labor force, in the workforce, have them make their own money. Number one, that takes the money out of the people pocket in the South. And number two, we make that money back too through taxes. You get it? All this was about money. This ain't had nothing to do with nothing but money. Money. If them people could have won this war without the slaves, we probably. Let's talk about it, okay? Now, dang, it's been an hour and a half already. God damn, hour and 45 minutes. All right, cool. Thank you, Denon, for the super chat. Hey, boo, I read that AB freed the slaves because he was going to lose the election and he knew that black folk will automatically vote for him. That could very well be possible. That could very well be possible. Let me tell you something. We had voting rights before the Voting Rights Acts of the 1950s and the 1960s. Did y'all know that? We held offices in politics. We had voting rights. Now, where it all went left, I have to do the research on that. But we had voting rights. We were voting. We were starch Republicans. Abraham Lincoln was a what? I think he was a Republican, if I'm not mistaken. But the point is, it wouldn't surprise me if he freed them for a double-edged sword. I mean, a double-edged, not even double-edged sword, but it will be a double win for him. Hey, I get the money and I get them to be loyal to me to vote for me. It makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. And then they tried to flip it and said, well, the parties flip. I don't believe that happened either. I don't believe that happened either. But it makes sense, the Don. It really does. It really does. Now, to move on really quickly, before we get into, is there anything else? Let me see what this is. Really quickly, I'm going to read this short passage. By the end of this is from archives.gov. By the end of the Civil War, roughly 179,000 black men, 10% of the Union Army, they line, served as soldiers of the U.S. Army, and another 19,000 served in the Navy. Nearly 40,000 black soldiers died over the course of the war. 30,000 of infection or disease. Black soldiers served in artillery and infantry and performed all non-combat support functions that sustained an army as well. Black carpenters, chaplains, cooks, guards, laborers, nurses, scouts, spies, steamboat pilots, surgeons, team stars also contributed to the war. There were nearly 80 black commissioned officers. Black women who could not formally join the army nonetheless served as nurses, spies, and scouts, the most famous being Harriet Tubman, who scouted for the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers. Why is this important? Remember, the first article we read said that it was the so-called what? Native Americans. Well, according to this, they say hundreds of thousands of black folk served in these armies, right? Well, there's actual photos to prove that. Let me get it up here. There are actual photos to prove that. Hell, we can do our genealogy and see some of our family fought in the Civil War. That's easy peasy. That's easy work. Where is the $5 footlong? Somebody help me out. Where they at? Where they at? You mean they ain't getting out one picture of them? They got pictures of all the white folk, all the Negroes, but they didn't get out one picture of a battalion of Native Americans? Stop the cap. I'm going to go over it again really quickly. By the end of the Civil War, roughly 179,000 black men served as soldiers in the U.S. Army. Another 19,000 served in the Navy. Pause. You want to see a flyer? What'd it say? Come and join us, brothers. Listen, here's a flyer. Look who in the flyer. Where the $5 footlongs? No, the Native Americans were here. Let's be clear. The Native Americans were here. The Native Americans were here before the white people came, before the Europeans came. Let's be clear. The Native Americans were here before the invaders came. They just wasn't here before us. That's the gag. That's the gag. The Native Americans were already here. My thing is, if we read articles about all these Native Americans fighting in these wars, why we never see no evidence? Where is the where the pictures at? You got pictures of everything else. Hell, they even got flyers saying, come and join us, brothers. Look at the little baby playing the drum. Remember in the movie Glory? Let me go back. Remember in the movie Glory? Remember the mute? The one Denzel was about to get into it with? And what Morgan Freeman character told him? He's a mute. When he was playing the drum, remember the boy was playing the drum when they was in the tent? And Denzel's character was like, hey, boy, you better stop with that drum. You better stop. And he went to grab it, and Morgan Freeman grabbed him and said, hey, he's just a boy. I think he was deaf and mute. You see what I'm saying? If you would like to know, B-Rock, why I need evidence, because that's the only way I believe. If there's no evidence, it didn't happen. That's why. You'd be hard-pressed to believe anything that you don't have evidence for. That's between you and your brain. But I'm not going to believe a story if there's no hard evidence. If they have photos of black soldiers, show me the Native American ones. If you can't show me the Native American ones, they never existed. That's just the facts. Now, you can go off belief B-Rock if you want to, but I don't do that. That's not how I roll. If you're going to tell me something happened and you can show me evidence to prove something else in the same action, show me something that proves what you're saying in the same action as well. So if you're going to tell me African Americans fought, fine. I see the pictures. Show me the pictures of the Native Americans you say fought. I'll wait. That's just how I go for me. I don't know, you know what I'm saying, how I go for you, but for me, if there is no evidence, it never happened. It's all a bunch of malarkey. That's just my opinion, okay? Okay, now, like I said, they got pictures of everything else. Look at our ancestors. Handsome, too. He was so handsome. He looked like a young boy, too. Let me see. There you go right there. Don't he look like a baby, huh? Don't he look like a baby? We had some, listen, we got some fine men, okay? He looked like a baby too. Lord have mercy. But it was between ages 18 and 50. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them lied and it was 14, 15, telling them people to 18. Now, let's move on. Thank you, Arthur Empress. Thank you. I appreciate it. We don't have time for that. All right, now we're going into the what do you call it? The video by Dan Calloway. Shout out to Dan Calloway. He did this fire video on the truth about the Civil War. And I wanted to bring this up and show this to you guys. The one that says it's not about ending slavery. Listen, before we get into this video, you guys, make sure y'all like the video if you haven't already. Let me get to the let me go back. All right. Let's get it, y'all. Y'all ready? Shout out to Dan Calloway. I'll drop it.
That they sent non-military trained volunteers from France and Germany to go fight them? Professionally trained and combat ready, from well-respected and experienced generals to high-ranking officers. The Confederate Army was the original U.S. Army. I'm just saying, wait a minute. If he was a slave,
wait, you know what?
We just scratching the surface.
Because I think this is this the one? Oh, hold on, really quickly. Let me put up this other one because I would rather just play the video. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let's go over here.
Mind you that I'll be sharing more details about this in a later video. So there are no right or wrong answers here at this time. My focus is on making you think about those things that you were told were truthful and accurate and labeled as official American history. Now, according to what we were told about the cause of the Civil War, it was said that the Southerners wanted slavery to continue, while the Northerners wanted to emancipate all enslaved people, and that this disagreement led to both sides wanting to harm each other. But what isn't so clear is who exactly agreed and disagreed with this alleged reason as to why war can be the only possible answer to resolve their differences. Who had the means and the capability to manipulate the public to choose a side? And why was it so important for the Union States of America? I just want y'all to let this marinate. I'm talking about.
Oh, so he's talking on both of them. Well, since we on this one, let me go back over here. I want to go into the it wasn't about ending slavery, because he's talking on both of them.
If that Niji brother was a slave, why he standing up and got his arms on them? If this was about trying to abolish slavery, but the Southerners ain't want to do it, something not adding up, is it?
Right.
Look closely. My military folk out there, what this mean? What this badge right here mean? Because look, if you looking, don't he got that same badge on? What this badge right here mean, y'all? Oh, yeah. What you looking at right now is a high-ranking officer.
Yep, that's an officer.
Does he look like he part of you?
Nope.
He got on a 3-piece suit and think he ain't strapped here. Nuh-uh, not Freemasonry. You don't see them hiding their hands, do you? We gonna get to that in a second. You gonna see some people that's doing that, but not right here. Yeah, that boy clean as a whistle, top, bottom. Does it look like they upset because he got his hand on them? He got that victory cigar ready, don't he? Look at his hand. He got that victory cigar ready right there, don't he?
He got his
We talking about generals, baby. We were at the top. And our people were led to believe that our ancestors did not fight in a large mass, as far as the soldiers are concerned, within that war, the Civil War to be exact. I challenge you to do your genealogy on your family, because you won't ever know until you go find out. Not everybody in your family can recall their ancestors in the 1800s, but those records exist. Don't allow them to tell you that those records do not exist, but yet they have pictures. Oh, but yet they have the correct account. Don't needed our help, because not only did we progress us, we progressed them. And no, we were not just some slaves to some white slave master. No, it didn't work that way. We were not slave captives from Africa. It didn't work that way. 1861, Abraham Lincoln requested 75, according to Congress, 75,000 non-military trained volunteers. And you mean to tell me that they captured us from Africa?
Right.
But they needed help in 1861? We're fighting the people that was already here. It wasn't enough.
And didn't I show y'all that? What was it we was just talking about? The Buffalo Soldiers. I told you that them people could not win wars without us. So it took them to get us to help them win wars against us. Okay? We were the expert. This is our land, right? So just like the Buffalo Soldiers, they had them go fight other Indians, just the same on this side. Remember, the North, the Union is recruiting niggas like crazy. We just read Abe needed about 500,000. They recruiting like crazy. Who can beat them but them? So it makes sense. We wasn't, listen, I get it. We've been indoctrinated to believe all black people. I believe this all the way up to about 2-3 years ago. All black people in the South was poor slaves. We ain't had nothing. That is the furthest thing from the truth, y'all. That's why I have a problem with the reparations through slavery, because a lot of us gonna be hard pressed. That's why nobody who leave reparations through slavery ever talk about genealogy. You ever notice that? You want to know why Tariq Nasheed and them people like that don't never bring up genealogy? Because they know if we start doing the research, we gonna realize we're not freaking slaves. This could be any one of our granddaddies right here. So they're not going to bring up genealogy. They don't want to talk about genealogy. They going under the assumption and umbrella that all black people in the South were slaves. That's just it. But that's false and that's a lie. And we are owed way more than a check. So guess what? We may not get it through slavery. But there's so many avenues that them people owe us. It ain't just through no damn slavery. We don't have to go through that method. For the ones who apply and the ones who it works for, and you got documentation to say your family was a slave, okay, that's fine. But that's not the majority of our story. It's just not. Don't care about what the schoolhouse told you and what the movies told you. That just wasn't what it was. How do we have Black Wall Street? How do we have Rosewood? How do we have Oscarville? How we had all these thriving ass towns and we was all slaves? It doesn't make sense.
They were about bringing people together in the South. Yeah, you're going to find racism and prejudice throughout the South. You are. But when they say Southern hospitality, they're referring to our people and how we did welcome some foreigners in and took care of them. It wouldn't be no them if it wasn't for us. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for us, it would be no them. They needed our help in order to survive in an unknown territory. Goes back to that same example. Those people were newly residing in New York and Pennsylvania, right? If they were shipped to California, who is going to teach them how to survive in California? The indigenous people that were already there. You can't be coming over here and firsthand, you know what to do in order to keep yourself afloat so you and your loved ones can survive. In a totally different landmass, you have no idea.
Right.
Right now, we lucky that we got GPS to find gas stations if we on the road, rest stops. They even put signs up, right? Just imagine at a time where they don't have those rest stop signs up on the highway and no GPS and no cell phone, but yet you got to try to survive in an unknown territory.
Listen, you know why this is so important? I remember when I first moved to Georgia after Katrina, I was hanging with this dude who used to sell a little grass. You know what I'm saying? But I remember instead of getting on the interstate, because the interstates used to be crazy with traffic, this boy knew every back way you need to go to get through that city. I'm talking about you go, he had turned down the back street in Norcross or in Gwinnett County, and we'll end up damn near on Old National Highway, which is way south. Through a back road, because that was that boy land. Same thing in New Orleans. I don't have to get on the interstate to get from the east to downtown. I know ways to go through the back. When we evacuated from New Orleans for Katrina, my daddy didn't get on the twin span. He didn't get on I-10 because my daddy drove trucks. My daddy was able to go through Highway 11 all the way down to Florida. When you know your land, you are the only ones that can navigate such land. You see what I'm saying? So just like me not being a native of Georgia, when I came here, like even my old man, he'll be telling me, why you took the interstate? Why you didn't take blah, blah, blah? I didn't know. But this is his land, so he knows how to navigate it. When Dane talks about how these people needed us to navigate the land, to understand, because we're still doing it to this day. They are foreigners to here. We're not, if we came from Africa, how the we know how to navigate this land? Help me out. If we come from Africa, how would Harriet Tubman know how to get from whatever plantation she was on in the South to all the way to damn Canada? Help me. How she know? How did she know to follow the drinking gourd? How did she know to keep the star, the north to your west or your back or whatever that? How did she know? Okay. They knew that because they were indigenous to the land and they already knew that. It was innate. They already knew. Okay.
Huh? Civil War. Civil War. Civilized. Who was civilized? We need them to bring it down, tone it down to our liking. But if the army went with the South, something was already done to their liking. Ooh, wisdom show. Hospitality equals civilization. Ooh, y'all on point tonight. I'm proud of y'all. Those of you that's learning tonight, yeah, it's no surprise that you were lied to about your history, but I want you to understand that you were lied to, and I'm going to tell you what the real deal is.
Right.
Look at how if the to high-ranking officers, the Confederate is well-respected and experienced generals to high-ranking officers. The Confederate Army was the original U.S. Army, to put it in plain terms. So how did the Union win if the Army fought on the side of the Confederate States of America? Look at your man.
Yeah, that mug decorated like a mug.
I'm just saying, look at how decorated
look at all
he is.
Look at all
I gotta let that sink in, my brother.
My nigga lit.
Is decorated. Decorated. He more decorated than your grandmother's kitchen, your grandmother's living room, grandmother's dining room. He is more decorated than your grandmother's house. Look at him. And you gonna spit on a flag as if it's racist. It's against your people. And he decorated. And you gonna knock him for saving your ass or trying to keep things together for the better? Our people ain't just gonna hop, skip, and jump for no reason, are we? We ain't doing that right now. But I mean, I want you to tell me what he did to be this decorated right now. You see that face? Do he look like he worried? Or do he look like I'm gonna keep it professional. Them high cheekbones. Look at that Indian right there. Yep. Look at this Indian. That's right, he got the purple heart on the left. God damn it. Look at him.
Oh, I ain't even catch it.
On his right.
The purple heart. Is that it? Or is it that? Listen, my man got decorations like crazy. My man got awards, and these awards, back then you didn't just get them. You know what I'm saying? Back then you didn't just get them because you good at your job. Niggas was going to war. So when you get these things, you did some shit. Look, bam, 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 bam. Man, my nigga lit like a Christmas tree. What we talking about? He lit like a Christmas tree full of fucking decorations. He had to be a bad mother effer in the war.
Right, on his right, our left. That is amazing. And that's not being brought up. That's not being talked about.
Nope.
We just leaving it alone. Yeah, our people fought in that war. Yeah, I mean, so what, Dane? So what? How is that going to change anything? And I'm telling you how it changes everything. Yep. I mean, but what can that do for us right now, Dane? Number one, it'll wake you up.
Yes.
Number two, you ain't going to lay claim that you was cursed. You going to know that you was the chosen.
There you go. Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Dane. I don't know how many times on my channel I told y'all don't teach your churn about no slavery rhetoric. Don't make them believe they were less than these white folk. No, you teach them that they were better than that, bigger than that. I'd rather you even with the bullshit of kings and queens. I don't care. But do not pass that trauma onto your kids, or we will all come over here on boats and chains and whips, and we was beat. And just like they did it to us, now we having nightmares of slavery, even though ain't every one of us been nowhere around no slavery, and it really messes with your subconscious. It changes a lot to know that this black man, this Indian, swarthy, copper-colored black man wasn't no goddamn slave in no doggone Confederate army. He was a decorated goddamn officer. That tells you where we were and who we were. Okay? Thank you, Cosmic Sun Soul, for the super chat. I'm sorry. Exactly. They owe us for our essence, period. Girl, they owe us for everything. They owe us for even being here.
Number 3, you ain't gonna misrepresent that Confederate flag no more. You gonna represent that Confederate flag, especially if you was in the South and still is right now. I bet you won't ever disrespect that flag again. You better not. Because the people that's learning tonight gonna pop you upside your head if you try to do anything disrespectful to a flag that our ancestors died for. And I'm talking about coming over here. I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna do it right now.
What if I told you that instead of setting up a green screen, you can just click a button into script and get the
T28 Webster's English Language Dictionary. Can y'all see this? Confederation, the act of confederating, a league, a compact for mutual support, alliance, particularly of principles, nations, or states. The 3 principles enter into a strict league and confederation. Number 2, the United States of America are sometimes called the Confederation. This is before 1861. And when I told you that it wasn't called the United States, it was the Union States. Here, I'm going to give you that one too. Mm-hmm. I want you to look at the bottom of that now. Official website, U.S. Embassy in the United Kingdom. I'm coming up. What'd that say right there? They know, but you don't. They hiding it from you. You can't get it on Google. In the United Kingdom, they know what's going on, but you don't. What they got to hide for?
Hey, it's
you
big.
Look up Union States of.
So in the UK internet, they call us the States of the Union, but we call us the United States of America. See, 50 states of the Union. Y'all do know Chinese, Asian Google, UK Google, all that's different from ours. They got to keep us stupid. And that's all of us. It don't matter what color it is. They got to keep us dumb. But I find it funny that they be teaching them a whole different history that we are taught over here. The only one that come over here and know our history is because they were taught the history here.
Of America, they're going to show you pictures that say United States of America. Let's go back. Okay. Did you know that the president of the Confederate States of America, by the name Jefferson Davis, was not only previously a part of the House of Representatives in Congress, a colonel in command during the Mexican-American War, and even the Secretary of War under then-President Franklin Pierce in 1853, but he was also a member of the pro-slavery party called the Democrats. Hold on.
I told y'all about them Dixiecrats.
Let's hold hands on this one. We got to walk slow coming across that street. Hold on. He was a member of the pro-slavery party called the Democrat.
Hey, y'all hold hands as we cross this street because the cars is coming fast. Do you hear me? Malcolm X talked about the Dixiecrats. What'd he say? The Dixiecrats ain't nothing but the Democrats. The Dixiecrats is the KKK. They traded in their hood. You feel me? Okay? So what he's saying is he was the member of the pro-slavery party called what? The Democrats. Aren't we in slavery under the Democrats? Didn't Steve Harvey tell us don't be asking us to ask them for nothing? They can't do nothing for us. They ain't gonna get in the White House. We in slavery right now under them still to this day. Y'all hold hands walking across the street.
Pro-slavery. Democrats in the Army, again, high-ranking officers were Negroes, pro-slavery, Democrats, high-ranking, Negroes. They lying about something. Notice how they saying that he was pro-slavery. Was this really about slavery? Again, was it really about slavery? Look at his history. He was a part of the House of Representatives. I mean, I'm talking about previously now. He was a part of the House of Representatives, a colonel in command during the Mexican-American War, the Secretary of War under President Franklin Pierce in 1853, 10 years prior. Then all of a sudden now, it's a problem. I got to separate from the Union. I'm going to lead it. I'm a Democrat. We got to keep slavery. Again, was it really about slavery? Something not adding up. Now, it's about slavery, but let's send the slaves to go fight. Nah, we got their children. We'll just wait 10 to 15 years when they become a teenager and we gonna make them work. In the meantime, we're gonna suffer between them 10 and 15 years until we can get some more workers out in that field.
I'm with you, China Doll. China Doll said it's survival. Somebody lying. None of this is adding up. I'm with China.
It's survival. Survival. I guess somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
I mean, okay.
But we gotta put their father, we gotta put their baby fathers, we gotta put their baby fathers in this war. Something not right. Now, at this time, the Democrats were pro-slavery. And since we were told that the Union won the Civil War and that President Abraham Lincoln restored order to the Union, why would an anti-slavery Republican president have a vice president named Andrew Johnson, who was a pro-slavery?
Let me gag you up. Not only was Andrew Johnson pro-slavery, he literally undid every single thing Abraham Lincoln did before he got popped. Listen to me and listen to me good. It was Abraham Lincoln who gave the so-called free emancipated slave, the new freedman, 40 acres and a mule. You know when Andrew Johnson came up there and said, nah, we ain't doing none of that. Matter of fact, KKK, clear people, if y'all want to go over there, unalive them and take your land back, I'm behind you. Why would a president pick a vice president who was literally opposite of everything that he stands? Kamala's gonna do any and everything that Biden did. Biden, if God forbid something, well, I ain't gonna say God forbid, but if something had happened to Obama, he was gonna carry forth the torch for Obama. LBJ, all these people pick people who are on the same page. Why would Abraham Lincoln pick a vice president who was completely opposite? Now, according to them, Abe was anti-slavery, but Andrew Johnson was pro-slavery. Why would he pick him? It doesn't make sense. That's like right now, Trump picking Kamala Harris as his doggone running mate. It doesn't make sense. In the case that I can't serve, I need you to pick up the torch and do what I have.
Democrat.
Woo! Woo! One of them was lying.
Mason. There go that Mason. But listen, again,
yeah, he's definitely a Mason. Look,
he was
behind his hand.
He couldn't read and write. Abraham Lincoln picked this nigga.
Y'all notice when they be hiding that hand, that's that Mason sign. Now he wasn't no Prince Hall Freemason. That was the nigga Masons. He wasn't no Prince Hall. Okay, that was the nigga Masons. But when they hide that hand up in there like that, that's a Freemason symbol, okay?
Wait a minute. And he was a Democrat? Hold on, wait, whoa. Dane, what are you saying? I just told you what I said. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, allegedly anti-slavery, right? But his vice president is pro-slavery Democrat?
Didn't I just tell y'all, ain't that just like Trump going to pick Kamala Harris or Biden as his running mate? It has never made sense in the past, and it doesn't make sense in 2024. Somebody lying. This doesn't, listen, it didn't make sense in the past, and it doesn't make sense in 2024. Why would somebody like Trump pick Kamala Harris? Or why would Kamala Harris pick somebody like Trump when they have completely opposing views? Somebody lying.
It's survival. I guess somebody lied. Smells like somebody lied.
You get it? You get it?
This Civil War was about slavery, huh?
Right.
But yet you had two heads of the same snake in office?
Switch to Chrome to protect yourself from malware, so you can surf without getting phished.
I'ma let it sink in. I said Abraham Lincoln made Andrew Johnson a part of his cabinet, a part of his administration. I'm talking about the next in line made him vice president. Yes, and he was illiterate. That is documented. You don't believe me, you can look that up. He could not read or write at all. At all. And Abraham Lincoln gave him vice president? Somebody said Abraham owner. Let's think about this now. What is a slave owner? Let's think about this. If McDonald's got employees working for them.
Slave owners.
How many slaves do they own?
Slave owners. Millions.
Target got employees working for them.
Millions.
How many slaves do they own?
Millions.
Wait, man. What about Walmart? Walmart got slaves working for them. How many slaves do they own? That's slavery.
Matter of fact, wherever you clock in at your job at, that's a slave owner. I don't care where you work at. Wherever you clock in, me included, wherever I clock in, that's a slave owner. But we so caught up on the Hollywood depiction, the roots of it all. Oh, let me lash him. Whap, hit him at the lash. No, girl. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but not the way they making it seem.
This is and this exposes it. This Civil War stuff exposes it. Big time. Why would you take away slaves from the North and the South when you're in business? Think about it. Yes, this was a capitalist society. And the only way a capitalist society can stay afloat is if businesses are present. A business can only stay afloat. I'm going to use that term again, or phrase.
And Nisi said we all slaves. Not only are we all slaves, we've all been slaves, Nisi. You're right. We all slaves. Black, white, Asian, blue, green, it don't matter. And guess what the gag is? We all been slaves. So when people like Tariq Nasheed off that roots bullshit come up here and tell these people to go down there and pray and beg for these folk to give them reparations due to slavery, I know he full of shit. And what makes me even more mad is I know that he know he full of shit, because he know them folk not gonna get him no money. Because guess what? Not only were we all slaves back then, we all slaves right now. That's no different from people realizing that we've been working 40-hour work weeks for the past 150 years, and then we realized we were underpaid. By that logic, everybody get a piece of the pie. Everybody get a piece of the pie, because we all been paid over 40-hour work weeks. The slavery never stopped. It just transformed the picture. You see what I'm saying? Crazy, bro.
As if they have employees working for them, slaving for them, laboring for them, being servants. It's the same thing. But they ain't get paid nothing.
Yeah, they did.
They got paid little to nothing.
They got paid.
Services the same thing.
Listen, you had room and board, you had food. That's payment. Even if they paid you a penny a day, that's still payment. You got paid. You just didn't get paid for the labor you did.
What's an indenture? Tell them, chat. What's an indenture, y'all?
Contract.
You go to a job. In order for you to try to get that job, you fill out a what?
Contract.
Thank you. Look at the chat.
I ain't even gotta see it.
Look, y'all. An indenture is a contract. You're going into business with that business. You're trying to be hired as an employee. This is happening right now.
Contract.
You're applying application. You're applying to become a what?
And
then you're contracted. You're obligated to do what? Work for someone. That's a servant.
Easy peasy.
That's a slave. That's an employee. That's not knocking nobody.
If you don't know you a slave in 2024, we all working 40-hour shifts and we still can't afford groceries, gas, and things of that nature. If that ain't the same type of situation, just packaged differently, I don't know what else to tell y'all. We literally talked about it this morning. They giving the migrants thousands of dollars a month, and we over here slaving 40 plus hours a week, and we still got to decide between gas, groceries, and washing our ass. Y'all tell me we ain't in slavery. I'm confused. Contract, slavery, indenture servant. Once you sign your application and say you want to work here, indenture servitude is what you signing over. You don't have to stay. You don't have to stay. And let me show you how they do it through forced indenture servitude. You ever been to prison? Forced indenture servitude, free slavery. Per the Constitution, slavery was abolished unless you take your ass where? To prison. Y'all better wake up. Slavery, ooh. Slavery, ooh. Whole time, bitch, we ain't never been free. Let's get into it.
That's the truth. And you know what we gonna say, right? Yeah, a worker. You know what we gonna say, right? Well, we gotta pay our bills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what you think they had to do back then? When things cost, how did the slaves pay for it? Oh, you gonna believe the stories they told you? Oh, they gonna feed the slaves under the table and treat them like dogs after they working their tails off from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. out there in them fields where they could leave at any time if they are being mistreated because it ain't no chains and shackles on them. It ain't nothing but open field. Oh, you gonna believe that? Oh, they gonna give them leftovers. Nah. Don't keep them fed. Don't keep them fed. Don't keep them healthy. Nah, we need some slaves that's gonna be out there sneezing and coughing in the fields, huh? I don't care if they sick, make them work.
Mm-hmm.
And that ain't gonna get passed down to them.
How many of y'all could call off y'all job if y'all feel if y'all wake up tomorrow? Put a 1 in the chat. If you could wake up tomorrow and say, I don't feel good, can you call off on your job? And number 1, expect to have your job. And then number 2, will you still get paid for the day? Put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat if your ass got to get up, rain, sleet, or snow. Listen, put a 1 in the chat. If you feel like tomorrow when you wake up, you got a headache or you just don't feel good, you could just call your job and say, hey, girl, I ain't going to be able to make it. I don't feel good. And they're going to say, okay, girl, get better, girl. And then you're going to hang up the phone and you still going to get paid. Or you're going to be compensated for the day. Put a 1 in the chat if you can do that down at your job. Y'all are lucky if you can. But the average American cannot wake up and say, hey, girl, I don't feel good. You know what the folks going to say? Go get a doctor's note. And guess what? If you don't come back with that doctor's note, guess what they're going to tell you? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. You fired, bitch. You feel me? You feel me? Unless you work at a corporate entity where you have what they call sick leave, the majority of us can't get up and call our job and say, hey, girl, I'm just not feeling good this morning. I'm going to come in tomorrow. Okay, girl. All right. Boom, boom, boom. If you work a regular job, you can't wake up tomorrow and call down to your job and tell them you're not coming today because you don't feel good. Guess what? Just like Dane just said, I want them to work through sickness, health, sleet, and snow. Same shit, different toilet. We doing it now.
of them germs and everything. That's not. You gonna believe that, huh? That's up to you. Again, you got to use your imagination. There's no verification of the truth. There's no verification of that. You cannot accurately prove that actually happened. Still to this day. Like what people were saying, those white slave masters were I gotta censor this, our wording, our women, huh? And that's how we got mixed babies. That happened with everybody, huh? The man was overpowering the woman. Like that woman ain't gonna come back and tell that man that's in them fields. And what that man gonna be too scared. That field Negro gonna be too scared to put that knife up against that homeboy's neck if that actually happened. I'm talking about in a large mass. We could say that it happened, but you said that it happened in a large mass and everybody had their tail stuck in between their legs and ain't do nothing. Right now, men, talk to me, men. If somebody that you know right now, good friends with right now, walk up to you and tell you something stranger, did something to her that he wasn't supposed to be doing, what you gonna do? You gonna sit there? Don't worry about it. Get over it. I mean, it's not going. That's what you're gonna do? Well, wait. I mean, we gotta call the police. That's what you're gonna do? I know better than that, and I know you do too. Where the men at? Not the little boys. The men. Where you at? What you gonna do? One of our needy women walk up and say that's what happened to them. What you gonna do? And you mean to tell me that we wasn't doing that back then? Ain't gonna be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Of the chosen. Let's
quantum entanglement. That's why channeling works. Your brain is making
slavery was allegedly abolished according to your proclamation, your EO. Okay, and you turn right around and made sure that you had a Democrat right behind you.
Right. That's another thing. Why would Abraham Lincoln abolish slavery, promise 40 acres and a mule, knowing his successor right next to him really about that shit? Think about it. Let's say he even started off like, fuck these niggas, we gonna make slaves. I bet. Why would you put all this stuff in place knowing that the person you got as your vice president really gonna undo all this shit? God forbid something happened to you. You wouldn't even trust him. It does. Somebody lying. Either Abe was never no Republican or Andrew Johnson wasn't no Democrat. I don't know. Maybe he turned cold. I don't know. Somebody is lying. This doesn't make sense. A Republican will not choose a Democrat for their running mate, nor would they make them their vice president. That don't go like that. They're two different sides of the same coin, but just two completely different sides. It doesn't make sense.
Did the Union win the Civil War, or did the Confederate States compromise and unite with the opposing states to incorporate all agendas of those sitting on both sides of the table? Fatality. Did the Union win the Civil War, or did the Confederate States and the Union compromise and unite with the opposing states to incorporate all agendas of those sitting on both sides of the table? They did. Because right after the Civil War, what happened? It was business as usual, right? The United States, they became united. It was a compromise. Slavery was still happening.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is employment. You know for a fact that the Union is not going to bite the hand that feed them. They are not about to stop employment, slavery, to appease who? What is that going to do for them? They got businesses to run. So, we got that money. This, y'all. It's just not working out. We can't keep working these people. We gotta stop. And you mean to tell me that these foreigners or whoever these business owners are going to step up and start doing the business for themselves? When has that ever happened? I mean, huh? When does that happen? When you go into business for yourself, right? That's fine. That's all well and dandy. But when that business become bigger, larger, Even medium size shit. It could be small depending on what it is. You gonna continue to do everything on your own? Or you gonna outsource some assistance? This is happening. That's right. It's happening right now. It didn't change. It did not change. It won't ever change until we do something about it. I'm just here to make you think.
Talk your ish, Dame. Talk your ish, Dame. Listen. This is what I need you guys to understand. And we about to get off of here. A lot of things we were taught was lies. And it's up to us to use that third eye to look and see through the bull. A lot of these things don't make sense. I'm still looking for the battalion of Native Americans who fought in the Civil War. I'm still trying to figure out if slavery was really just an all-black thing, then why would black people fight on the side to keep slavery? It's so many questions. And they got answers for certain things, but not all, okay? That's done by design. And I need us to wake up. So what we learned today, the Civil War ain't had nothing to do with ending no slavery. It was about what? Moolah, money. That's what it was all about. Them people needed their coin, their monions. That's what they needed, okay? That's what this was all about. Now we can leave with the conspiracy of, well, did the South really lose, or did they just concede and be like, okay, y'all, let's just capitalize off of all of this? Who knows? Who knows? But it was about money. It was never about freeing my black ass, your black ass, or even if our black ass was even slaves. You get it? Now, with that being said, we had 2.5 hours, y'all. I'm going to get off of here. We'll come back next Friday. We'll discuss some other things. I got to do Basketball Wives because Jennifer Williams' husband was just found to be a doggone scammer, which I already knew. But we'll deal with that here in a minute. Love y'all down to the ground. Let me jolt y'all up out of here. Thank y'all so much for being for Educational Friday. Y'all, please like the video if you haven't already. Please like the video. Get it into the algorithm. I love you guys so much, and thank you guys so much for being here. Bye, y'all.
Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go! It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I want? Blaze up! Come on, blaze up!
It's the beat for me.
Wah 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 wah. For your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we live. For your boy. Also for your boy. Fix it for your boy. Drop it for your lift it up.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.